Hello children, how are you all? I hope you all are fine. Now here in this video I am going to explain you about the pollination, the types of pollination and the agents of the pollination. Also we will discuss about the different kinds of flowers depending on the ways of the pollination. Okay. So here is the pollination. What is the meaning of the pollination, or you can say what is the process of the pollination? The process of transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of the flower is called the pollination. So simple as that. This is the transfer of pollen grains from where to where? From anther to the stigma. Why from anther? Because the anther is producing the pollen grains. Pollen grains are the male gametes which are produced inside the pollen sac. Okay, and they are protected inside the anther. So here we will discuss about this pollination. Now children, if you remember the previous video, in that I had explained you the different structures of the flower. So here you can see that the anther is having the pollen grains. So here the transfer of pollen from anther to the stigma. This is called the pollination. That's it. And this is the first step for the formation of the seed. Okay, first step of the formation of the seed, and after that there will be the fertilization. First will be the pollination, then fertilization, and then the formation of fruits and the seed will take place. Now children, as you all know that the pollen grains are present inside the anther. So when they will come out, it can go anywhere. Okay, so that's why the pollination is of two kinds. Okay. So first one is the self-pollination and the second is the cross-pollination. So pollination occurs in the flowers of the same plant. As you can see here on your screen that the arrows shown A and B. So when the anther is having the pollen grains and the pollen grains are about to come out after the maturity, then what happens? Here it might go either on the same flower or on the same plant, but having the different flower. So this is called the self-pollination. So exactly pollination occurs in the flower on the same plant. Okay, so this is called the self-pollination. But here you can see one arrow is going over here, that is called the C, arrow number C. So this is called the cross-pollination. How? Because it occurs between the flowers of the different plants. Flowers of the different plants of the same type. So there is a transfer of pollen grain from the anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower of different plant. Now children, it's very easy to get to reach in the same plant. Okay, same flower or of the different flower but same plant. It's very easy. Okay, but when it has to go to other flowers, other plant flower, so there should be some medium. Okay, so the cross-pollination always needs medium to get carried. Okay, so pollen grains are carried by the medium. It could be the wind or the water, or by the insects also, or by the human beings also, and sometimes the animals also might carry these things, the anther or you can say the pollen grains. First agent of pollination is the wind. Okay, so the transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of the flower by the wind is called the wind pollination. So it happens in the maize, pine, palm and wheat. Okay, the light weighted one. Okay, now the characteristic of wind pollinated flowers are just like these are wind pollinated flowers are colorless. First thing, they are the colorless one, and they are just very tiny and dull, and they don't have any kind of fragrance or the sweet smell to attract the insect. They don't have. Okay, and their pollen grains are also you can say produced in very large number, because while going from one flower to another flower, there are so many will be wasted on the way. Okay, before reaching. So that's why they are produced in plenty, and the stigma is large and feathery and protrudes out to catch the pollen grains, so that the pollen grains should reach very fast, you can say exactly on the female part. Okay, next one is the pollinated by the water. So here you can see as the plants which are present into the water, they will be pollinated with the help of water only. So whenever it is the pollen grains are transferred with the help of water, so that is called the water pollination, and it happens in the aquatic plants only. And here also the characteristic of this pollen grains are little different. They are also light weighted and also produced in the large number, and male flowers are very small. Okay, only they have to carry from one place to get carried from one place to another with the help of water. Main thing, the process is that when the flowers get mature, so they get separated from the male, you can say separated from the parent plant and float over the surface. Okay, as they get mature, they start floating over the surface of the water, and at the same time the female flower rise to the surface of the water and float. It is already attached. It does not get detach themselves just like male. Okay, so female flower will remain there, and while floating, the male flower will the pollen grains will come and in the contact of the female flowers, and then they get stick to the stigma of the female flowers, and the pollination will be completed. Now the next way of pollination is the pollination by insects. So that's why it is called the insect pollination. Okay, so the transfer of pollen grains by the insect is called the insect pollination, and in that honeybee, wasp, moth and the butterflies, they used to help in the pollination process. So what happens whenever the insects are moving from flower to flower, they on their body the pollen grains used to stick over it and get transferred from one flower to another, and then as they come in the contact of the stigma, they get transferred and deposited over there, and then the further process will go on, that is the fertilization process will go on. And basically this happens in the rose, marigold and night jasmine, chrysanthemum. Also the dahlia flowers are there for the which are pollinated by the insects. And the last one is the pollination by animals. In this the birds are included, and along with that mammals, and just like a squirrel and bat are responsible for this, and even the man is also responsible for the cross pollination purpose. So here you can see the birds are sucking the nectar, and with the process of this, while sucking the nectar, the pollen grains used to stick on the beaks, and when they go to another flower, they visit to the another flower, then these pollen grains used to reach to the stigma of the flower, another flower. So in this way the cross pollination will be taken place with the help of the birds and the other means also. Now children, next topic is the fertilization. What is fertilization? Fertilization is the fusion of male and female gamete. Okay, so this is called the fertilization. Now how this male gamete reaches to the female gamete, this process is shown here. Here you can see this is the female reproductive part of the flower. Okay, and in this case as the pollen grains are reaching on the stigma, then they will start germinating. Okay, when they start germinating, then slowly and gradually they will form a tube like a structure. Okay, and this structure will be elongated, and then it reaches to the here micropyle. Micropyle is a hole over here, and through this the male gamete will reach into the female gamete. There will be the fusion of the nucleus of the male and female gamete. Okay, this is the embryo sac over here, and this is the ovary. Then polar nuclei is here, and the ovary wall here it is shown. So the first step will be the pollen grains will start germinating and then forming the pollen tube. With the help of this pollen tube, the male gamete, that is the pollen grains, will start reaching here, and then they enters the ovary, and then it reaches to the ovule. Okay, on reaching the ovule, pollen tube releases male cell and or the male gamete inside, and the male gamete fuses with the female gamete, egg in the ovule, and the female gamete on fusion with the male gamete, then they form the zygote. Then the fusion, so this as they form the zygote, then the fertilization will be over. Now children, what happens after the fertilization? So here you can see that after the fertilization, the ovary remains attached to the stalk of the flower and grows into the fruit. this ovary. They will remain attached. Okay, and this ovule inside, they will form the seed. Okay, they will develop into the seed, and this one ovary wall will become the fruit wall. And on the another side, there's other parts of the flower, that is the sepal, petals, and the other stigma, style of this one, this stigma, style, and then anther filament, and this petals, the sepals, these all will fall off, and what will remain? Only this portion will remain, and further this one will develop. So ovary will become the fruit, and the ovule will become the seed when they will get mature. So students, hope you all have understood the topics. If you have any doubt or question, you can ask in the comment section below, and the remaining topics will be covered in the next videos. Please like, share it with your classmates, subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so that you can get my latest updates. Thank you and take care.